Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Tristan Barracks here, the digital storyteller, and this is my dude.
Bart Aniston, your creative partner. Let's do this, man.
Let's do this. This is a brand new channel. We don't even have a name for it yet. We're just gonna we're gonna post it up. But this is all about, Bart and I talking about tech stuff, talking about media, talking about things that affect us as creatives, right? As you know, I'm a digital storyteller. I'm more film and story driven based and focused. And Bart is a marketeer. He is a person that looks at things from a really a marketing standpoint, a messaging standpoint, a creative directional standpoint. And we're gonna put our heads together and talk about things that matter to us and to our audiences and to you, right? So I mean, let's just jump right into it. The EOSR.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, I
First up,
mean,
Tristan, did you order one yet?
listen, I still have my Canon, my Sigma glass that have Canon mounts. I mean, I was literally, I feel like literally Whoopi Goldberg or what's her name, Oprah Winfrey. All my life I had to fight, I had to wait, all my life. You know what I mean? What you did to me, I already done to you, Harpo. You know what I mean? It's like that's
You're
what I feel like.
hilarious.
Honestly, I feel giddy. I feel weird. I feel like the guy that married the girl that made sense for him, but was really
Wow,
always in love with his first love.
wow,
I mean, it's that strong.
wow.
It's that strong. Honestly, let's talk about what are your thoughts about it?
Well, the initial thing when you read the specs is okay. Now, everybody who has multiple bodies in their arsenal, this is one body to rule them all. Like it is, you know what I mean? Like I know a lot of YouTubers who use a lot of Sony stuff, but when they
Yeah.
have to have a serious client job, they use Black Magic stuff or something
Yep.
like or GH5, and now you can just have one body that you can do your YouTube stuff and set it up and talk directly to it, and then you can bring that exact same camera and
Yep.
lens and just go and do client work, and you can use it again if you want to do short films. Like it has a ton of specs inside there.
It
Canon is now setting the new standard.
and one thing that I realize is that let's first set this up. For those of you that don't know, Canon announced that they released two cameras, the EOS R5 and the EOS R6. So essentially, they are the transitional cameras from the 5D Mark IV and the 6D Mark II. These are basically the mirrorless versions of that. And I think the first thing that blew me away was that, first of all, they came out with two cameras. Secondly, they didn't just kind of, come to par in terms of playing at the same level as all the other companies, but they actually went a step further. And that's where it kind of boggles my mind, because Canon traditionally has never been that way. And I think for me, the biggest thing that was frustrating with Canon was that they were the ones that brought this technology to these cameras, these form factors. They were the ones that put video into
That
into
is
the
true.
5D Mark II, right? And then progressively,
Can
kind
we have
of.
a moment? Can we have a moment of silence for the 5D Mark II
Hold on, hold on,
and
hold on,
all its greatness?
hold on. Okay, good. All right,
Thank you.
good. I'm
That
good.
was one.
No, because that. Listen, let me tell you something. That camera, if you on B&H right now, it's still $1,300 American. I don't know how, but that camera was revolutionary, right? It started all of this, right? It started, even the mirrorless cameras that we see today and the features and all that sort of stuff and the log profiles and blah blah blah. It started out with this 5D Mark II, right? Okay, and
Oh
don't
yeah.
ask me why I still have a body, a 5D Mark II body. I don't know. I can't let go of it. But what I have to say is that I'm excited about the R5, but I'm just as excited about the R6. If I was starting out right now today, I would probably get two R6s right now. They have 90% of what I would need and what I'm looking for out of a camera body with half the price. You know what I mean?
It's a lot. Like it's expensive, it's a lot, but in terms if you are serious about your work, this is talk about feature packed, right? Like just for,
Yep.
again, for those people that may not know all the features, it has a 45 megabit full frame sensor with the dual pixel technology, which
That is the
Canon
R.
is fire.
Just to clarify, that is the R5 that has that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has the 8K, right? Like
Yep.
so, and you can do raw 422 C log HDR, all that stuff. So
12-bit.
and yeah, so it's fine. When I say it is dense with features,
Oh
and it
man.
has the good battery life that Canon is known for. It has the flippy screen that we all have known to love, and of course the whole Canon mirrorless side of it has this ginormous inventory of lens
Yes.
that
Which is
is
which is
very, very. Go ahead.
well, one of the things I wanted to kind of jump in and say about the lenses is that that's one of the sticking points for me is that the lenses are great, but two things: they're huge. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
most of the lenses when you put them on any of the R bodies, it looks like a skinny guy with a big penis. Okay, it just looks ridiculous. I'm just saying, it just looks huge, right? It looks like a trajectory. Sorry, I'm not. If we're gonna be real, let's be real, right? It looks kind of weird, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having a small body. But then number two, they're extremely expensive. You're looking at $2,000 or $3,000 upwards, upwards to that sort of pricing. So now you're looking at the price of a body for $3,000 or 2,500 to $3,000 for the R6, and then 5,300 for the R5, and then you have to
Yeah.
now put glass on top of it, which is another $2,000. So you're looking at a good 7 to 8, maybe $9,000, because you got to get a couple more batteries, you got to get the grip, you got to get a couple accessories to make it work for you as a cinematographer, as a content creator. So it's great. I'm excited, but it's still an investment to go back into that ecosystem.
Yeah, and people have to understand that so a lot of people are going to jump at and talk about the R5 because of the 8K and how sexy that is. The R6 is probably going to be the more
Yeah,
bigger mover,
yeah,
right? It gives you more. I'm not a big fan of all these megapixels and stuff like that, just because the file sizes are just so huge. And unless you really, again, unless you are a professional
yep,
and you have a professional machine and you're using professional software, it's going to chug. Because if you shoot a wedding or an event and you have maybe your selects and you have 1,000 that you're now trying to
yep.
export, and they're all 200 megabyte photos that you're trying to compress down into JPEG that are end up going to be 50 megabytes or 25
Yeah, but
megabytes,
Bart,
that's going to take a while.
if you're a professional, Bart, it doesn't matter because you'll spend the money for professional gear because you're a professional, and it doesn't matter if you shoot a wedding and it's 3 terabytes. It doesn't matter because it's high res and you could ever put it on a billboard and stock footage.
Yeah, but how many actual professionals are making billboards? Now, here's the other thing I want to just make
Yeah.
note of. A lot of people who buy things first are pro amateurs. They're not actual professionals. Professionals love what they love,
Yep.
and they don't always jump. They know that the gear doesn't make the art; the person makes the art. So they're like, "Listen, I still have my 5D Mark IV. I'm still getting tons of clients. I'm a pro photographer. That's industry standard. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And then eventually, once they get the kinks out of it, I'm going to buy one when I have time, when I fully can really invest and dive into it. But
Hmm.
a lot of people who have these cameras, like I know somebody who put on their Instagram that they already pre-ordered one. He, this is a CEO of a company. So I'm like, what business do you have buying this camera? You know what I mean? Like just because you have the money and you like gear does not mean that's and not to say that he's not
But
going to use it or that he's not proficient in it, but that's not your job. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like
but that's the precise point though, right? Like Canon's not, and I said this in a previous video that I created on my YouTube channel. Check it out, youtube.com/Tristan Barracks.
it's going to be right over here.
Yeah, somewhere right. Well, I didn't even put anything. We got to put an overlay, but it's all good. I digress. I said this in the video. I said these companies, Canon, Sony, Fuji, Panasonic, they're not in the photography education business. They're not in the
Yeah.
film teaching business. They're in the camera moving and selling business, camera bodies, right? And printer bodies and corporations and all that sort of stuff. So when they put these features into cameras, they have already in their mind and in their forecast have already made, you know, the assumption that they're going to make a certain amount of money based upon the features that they're putting in here. That each feature that they place inside of a camera represents a certain amount of value that they need to get back in sales. So
Right.
when they put 8K in there, right? You know, I was saying in my video, 8K, oh my God. Like 8K it sounds great, just like having an 8K TV, but in practicality, is there even 8K content for that that TV that you just bought, that 8K TV? Is there a purpose or a desire for from your clients to have even 4K, right? Or are you using it because, you know, people say, well, you can subsample it and you can crop it, and so yeah, okay, great. Like I can crop my images of the, you know, from my A7 Mark III that are 24 megapixels, and you
Right.
won't know that it's a 24 megapixel camera versus a 45 megapixel camera unless you're a
Facts.
pro photographer, right? So really all of these things go back to the exact same thing that you were making, the point you were making. The CEO that doesn't need to buy it but can buy it. Those are the people. It's no different than Apple creating wheels for $1,000 or something like that.
It is
What are we talking about?
$10,000.
Or $1,000 stand for their display. What are we talking about? We're talking about brands upholding a certain level of nicheness so that their
Yeah.
brand can now be asserted with elevated wealth, right? So when I buy
Yeah.
this camera now, I'm not a photographer, but I feel like a professional photographer. I feel like I'm better than that other person. When I hold the camera and I'm like, it's all chunky in my hand, and I'm taking it and it goes, right? It's like, oh yeah, now I'm a pro photographer, and your photos look like shite, right? So it's just
Yep, I've had
it's
that.
marketing.
I've had that happen to me where I showed up. I was working at a church, and we did a photo shoot, and we rented a studio. And I showed up with my camera, and at the time, I had just bought a 6500, so I was shooting with that. And the people who were started in charge of the studio
Yeah.
were kind of like, "Come on, that's not industry standard stuff." Meanwhile, the photos looked fine and
Yeah.
everything, right? We had
Yeah.
so the next time, I'm like, I literally had the debate with me: should I bring my older T3i with the battery grip because it looks more like a DSLR? And I'm like, I had to like check myself, like, wait a minute, stop. You're gonna go with the older sensor that's not gonna be as sharp just for the look of like it looks like a big camera
Yeah.
with a big viewfinder, and people do have that, you know, that almost that feeling where they're like feeling inadequate, and so they want to have something that's bigger and
I
better.
I
Yeah,
bought
go ahead.
I bought I remember 2 years ago I bought I got hired for a really large documentary series that I was doing going across the country of Canada, and a part of what I knew I had to do was I had to upgrade my camera. Although I had a C100, I had sold it, and then I was just using like mirrorless cameras, like Sony cameras, and that was working really well for me. But then I was like, okay, well, I guess I should buy a cinema camera, you know, and then it'll look more professional. And I have a documentary, you know, the battery will last longer, all that sort of stuff, right? I buy the FS5 Mark II. By the time I purchased it and I used it for a month, it was already obsolete. Actually, by the time I purchased it, it was already obsolete technology. Like the technology in there was obsolete. Like it was already worse than the A7 Mark III that I purchased in terms of 4K, in terms of all the stuff that I need, low light performance and stuff. And I learned something there. I don't give a bleep about what my client wants. If I can deliver and they want what they want in terms of delivering, I'm going to do that. Now, does that mean I never purchase another cinema camera again? No, I just sold my FS5 and I upgraded to the Z Cam, and it only cost me $100, right, to do that, because I was able to sell it and then, you know, kind of transition laterally to a camera, and I can use that for commercial stuff, and it works for commercial stuff, and it can work for documentary stuff. But at the end of the day, you think I'm going to lose sleep because somebody looks at me and says, "Oh, you just have a mirrorless camera and it just, you know, has that." Okay, that's fine. Have you seen my demo reel? Guess what? 95% of the stuff I shot was shot with that little small camera that you're looking at sideways.
Bim.
Bim, bam, boom. But let's
Okay,
talk.
one last
Sorry,
thing.
go ahead.
I
Yeah,
want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a question.
yeah, yeah.
Is this camera for professional photographers, professional videographers, or hybrid? Like, if I'm just a professional photographer,
Mm.
should I buy the R6 or should I buy the 5D Mark IV?
Oh, 100%. I would buy the. This is the new standard and the flagship camera, without a doubt, that Canon is riding and dying with. The R5 is that camera that you should go with. If I was a professional photographer and I maybe I had I'm still on a Mark 5D Mark II or 5D Mark III, I would now upgrade and switch everything over to the R5 now. The R5 is
So
really it's for photographers. It's for what they're saying now is it's for image creators or yeah, they're visual storytellers essentially. That's how they're marketing it.
yeah. So are you? Is this the death of the DSLR?
Yes, 100%. And the reason why I'd say that is because size,
Yeah.
form factor. I'm thinking about the idea of even if you're a professional photographer, you're not just a professional photographer. You need something that can create content for you, BTS footage,
Yep.
educational footage, being able to. Clients now are expecting photographers to do video and expecting video guys or cinematographers to do photos. There is no distinction unless you're in like the 1 percentile, sort of like, okay, we know this is what you've been doing for 30 years. We're only going to hire you for this. Most jobs now are requiring you to be holistic in nature in terms of being able to be a digital content creator, and that means that you're going to need to have a tool that does that. Now the reality is that Sony's already created stuff like that with their mirrorless options.
Hmm.
Panasonic has done that with their GH1s and their our GH5s and the G1s, whatever, those ones that I
Yeah.
forgot what they're
And
the full
that new
frames.
SH1,
Yeah,
that
the
big
SH1s.
massive
Yeah,
one.
that's what I meant to say. So a lot of these. That's why I say Canon has just come to on par with everybody. The reality is that if they just released the R6, they would have really just been on par, and people would have been okay, cool, excited. But because they came out with the R5, and the R5 has 8K, all they did was say that, okay, now every camera moving forward needs to have 8K, because the reality is that the standard was already 4K. Everybody knew 4K
Yes.
60 is the
From
standard.
time.
Everybody needs that. If you are going to impress anybody, you need to at least have 4K 60, and then have, if not now, 4K 120 frames per second. So now that
Yeah.
they have 8K, they're just first to market with the 8K small body camera. That's it. But let's talk about some problems with it, potential problems with it. What do you think about, first of all, price?
The price is not bad. My issue is the lenses.
Okay.
So mirrorless are typically, in every other brand in this industry, are cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Sony, if you look at the
Yeah.
Panasonics, even the Olympus, rest in peace, they're going to be probably bankrupt. They announced that they're being bought out by I forget who, so they're going to be gone. Olympus is done, eh?
I know.
Anyways,
I know. That's so crazy.
so mirrorless were supposed to be cheaper than DSLR, more portable,
Yeah.
smaller, all those type of things. This is kind of like saying, hey, it's actually a big mirrorless. It's actually expensive, more expensive than our flagship DSLR,
Mm.
and it's actually the lens system for it is also very expensive, and it's different from all the old glass you used to have. You need to adapt it. Now, Canon is very easy to adapt, but again, it just adds to the size and the bulkiness of it.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the biggest glaring problem I have is there going to be a more affordable version of this,
Yeah.
of the R6, like a baby version almost? And is there going to be if this is going to be their new if this is going to be their new direction moving forward, like mirrorless is it, like this is
Yeah.
how Sony have done it as well. You cannot have a entry point for your standard kit lens where it's $3,800 US.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
No.
24 to 105 is $3,800.
Yeah. No. And the problem is that they're banking, what Canon's banking on is one of two things. Number one, that people will just buy it because it's Canon and it's a new system and they're excited and they think that they only need one lens. But then number two, they spent a lot of time. In fairness to them, they spent a lot of time engineering a totally different type of mirrorless glass. You know, a smart mirrorless glass system, essentially, because they have the focus rings, but then they also have the ring that can change the aperture and all that other stuff on the actual lens as well, and it works in tandem with the bodies. So, in fairness to them, they have been sort of redefining what it means to even have glass and have mirrorless glass. On the other side of things, it's like, yeah, but do we need all that stuff? Like, I'm good with controlling everything on my camera body. I don't want to have to control, a third ring on my lens and then spend an extra 30, 40, 80% more on that lens, on said
Right.
lens, than if you didn't have that, right? So there's certain things I don't really understand. I don't really subscribe to. And the other thing that's kind of frustrating with me when it comes to Canon is, this sort of arrogance where it's like, well, if you're gonna buy this camera, then you're gonna have to now spend all this money on these lenses and not thinking about, like, making like $500 lenses or $1,000 lenses. They're just like going full steam ahead with $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 lenses. I don't know. It's a little off putting, but it's very Canon.
Yeah, like you just said, it's very Canon because
Hmm.
their system is fragmented.
Yep.
Because it used to be like the T3s, T4, T6, well, all of that was to lead you to like the 60, the 60D, the 90D, all those
Hmm.
other cameras, right? All those DSLRs, and those cameras were supposed to lead you to the 5Ds. Okay, so I'm just like, where do people start, and how do they transition to this? Where do you
Well,
get?
well,
How
the
do you get to an R?
let's be honest with you. The RP, right? So you remember they came out with the R, then they came out with the RP, right? Now they have the R6 and they have the R5.
Right.
That's what you're looking at. So the RP is like, for those entry level people, right? The RP. Then the R was like kind of like their first addition to it. It wasn't really a full pro camera, but pros used it
Right.
and worked with it and they liked it. And then now you have the R6, which to me, if I was looking at camera bodies, I'd look at the R6. I mean, 4K 60, that's all I need.
Yeah.
For
That's
weddings,
yeah, no.
that's literally all I need. It shoots 4K up to 60 frames per second, high resolution images, low lighting. It's actually better at low light and has better dynamic range than the actual the R5. So that's something to think about, right? Because it
And
goes
the
up.
RP is sorry, just to keep
Mm,
with the fragmentation
yeah.
stuff. The RP takes EF mount, right?
It takes no. It's all R mount. This is all mirrorless. So the RP is the lowest. Then there's the R. Then there's the R6 and then the R5. That's basically
So
the
what's
lineup.
the kit lens for the RP? Like what lens would you get for
I
a
don't know.
RP?
I can check that right now. Let me check that. Let me check that right
Be-
now
Yeah,
because
you do that because
yeah.
in my mind I'm thinking like if I'm gonna buy a $1,000 or $1,200 Canadian body, I know it's like $899 in the states. What lens do I pair that with? Like if I'm starting out, say, okay, you know what, bet I got a G, I'm gonna buy the camera. Am I then gonna buy a $2,000 like kit lens? Like how does that work? We have
No.
to find out.
So the Canon RP. You know what? Let me see if I can just share my screen here. I'm not sure if I can. Let me see if I can add in. Maybe I can just add in this thing. Give me a second here. Okay.
No worries.
Yeah. You can continue talking. It's all good.
Yo, like okay, I'm seeing something where you can get like a
Right
kit
here. There
for
we go.
$1,500.
I don't know if you can see that on the screen. Well, I put it down on the screen. I'm just putting it in front of my face here. But
Yeah, don't worry about it.
the RP EOS R 26 megapixel camera. So it's actually more higher resolution than the R6. The RP is. And then it comes with the 24 to 105 RF STM lens for, and that's a kit lens for $1,600 Canadian.
That's a good price.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. $1,600 Canadian. I'm not really sure what this lens is, to be honest with you. I'll take this out. If I go back to, I'll look this up, like the price of this lens and what it actually is worth. But
Yeah, I'm very interested because it's a 24 to 105
oh yeah,
IS.
it's
It's image
24 to
stabilization.
105, but it goes to it's f4 to f7.1. So and it's
Lord,
$550. Yeah, $550.
Lord,
Yeah, it's terrible. That's
that's a horrible
that's a
lens.
terrible lens. That's
You're gonna spend $500 for something that is literally trash.
but the RP. I mean, I was looking at the RP at one point because I was like, listen, for vlogging and like just basic stuff, $1,200 for a camera is not that bad, or
So
13
so
$1,100.
this is what I think. This is what I was trying to get at.
Mm.
I think if you're starting out and you're like, what should I do? The best thing to do is get the RP and get a converter and use the EF mounts. Get the new Nifty 50 from Sony.
Mm.
Get the 85. You can get a good deal on an 85
Yep.
and put the EF converter. Then you're talking of a way better deal because I think they're missing a lot
I
of
don't.
cheap lenses.
I don't think they have the adapters yet though, because remember, it's Canon proprietary mount, so they have to get permission or pay rights to it. And if Canon hasn't released that yet, because they're trying to protect
Isn't
their
there an
body.
EF to R mount already?
There's EF to R, but
Yeah,
that's made by Canon. That's not made by like
right.
a third party. You would need like a E mount to R in order
No,
to
no,
use. Oh,
I'm talking about the get the cheap
oh,
Canon lenses,
yeah,
the cheap
absolutely.
EF mounts,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
put them on the R.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
Don't
I got you.
don't try to get this new R lens if you're just starting out, because until you're ready to make a big time commitment, that's when you want to go. And again, if you're real serious about it, you want to get yourself a medium zoom, something like
Mhm.
that. 16 to 50 in that range. It's going to cost you way more money in
Yep.
the R world, but if that's your bread and butter, you'll make the money back.
Listen. I know a professional photographer, photographer who does like celebrity stuff, does covers, all that sort of stuff. He has three lenses in the R system. He has two. He has two R's. He has two R's. Okay. Bought those bodies. He switched from 5D Mark IVs, and he all he shoots with is he has the 85, he has the 105, right? The sort
Yep.
of their L series, and then I think he has the 35. That's it. And he shoots. He's shot multiple covers. He shoots celebrity weddings. He makes thousands of dollars a year, and he only uses three lenses and two bodies. So, I mean, again, what I'm saying is that I don't. I mean, even when I shoot a wedding, I don't shoot. I don't use more than about maybe three, maybe four lenses at best, because you really don't need more than that, right? So again, it's one of those things where just be if you're smart with it, you could probably get away
Yeah.
with maybe two lenses. You know what I mean?
So are we excited about? Because I am. Are we excited about this announcement? I think it's a step in the right direction.
I think I'm very excited about it. I think that I'm at a place now where I have confidence back in Canon.
Oh yeah.
I would like, if right now, if I started my business right now, I would probably go with Canon. If I was transitioning and I only owned one Sony camera body or only one other off-brand camera body, I would switch back. Um, this is
So
what we've
you're
been
saying
waiting
I
for.
should switch back because I only have one Sony. I have an A66,
I
fam.
mean, for the pricing, no, and
I'm
not
not
for
gonna
what
do
you
it. I'm
do.
not gonna do
But I think, and I think this. Can I say this one last thing, and then we can wrap up? I think
it. Yeah.
the one thing I will say is that this misnomer about color science, stop the nonsense, okay? First and foremost, okay, this is how I'm gonna break this whole sort of argument of color
Oh boy.
science and
Tristan's getting upset.
Canon color science and stuff. This is why you're full of shite, okay? And it's craziness. When you shoot with cameras, 99% of the time, especially if you're a photographer, let's not talk about video, but photography, you're shooting raw, right? You're not taking that raw image and just sending it to the client. You're doing something with it. You're adding your own LUT, you're adding your own Lightroom preset, you're adding your own thing. So when you're talking about the natural color science or whatever color science of a camera, it's a moot point because you're not actually using that color because you're doing your own tweaks to it. Therefore,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. So if I use a Sony or I use a Fuji, or I use a Panasonic, I can get a quote unquote natural skin tone
Look.
or Canon
Yeah.
look, quote unquote, by just using a LUT or doing some tweaking, because I'm a professional photographer or I'm a professional cinematographer. So that whole nonsense about that's value and you have to pay that Canon color science tax is a bunch of BS. And I hope that we end that, because it's just it bothers me to no end. And I used to think that way as well until I understood color science and understood how to color correct and color grade my footage. That makes no
100%.
sense. It doesn't
100%.
matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people who perpetuated that idea were
Yeah.
YouTubers who were doing
Yep.
straight to publish.
Yep.
So they're trying to get the fastest version of their edit done, and they don't know how to color correct and color grade.
Yep.
And don't know the difference between color correction and color grade, anyways.
Yeah.
But
That's a whole nother
so
video.
yeah, a whole other video. So I'm like, that's where that idea gets perpetuated from. But yeah, I think if you know what you're doing, I've shot with a lot of cameras in my time with Blackmagic in Red, Ari Alexa,
Yep.
the Sony cams, the Sony Cinema series. And at the end of the day, when you get the footage, you spend a lot of time doing some test samples. When
So
you
much
first
time.
get in studio,
Yep.
yeah, to see what the look is going to be and how the end result's going to be. And the first step of everything is always going to be to correct your footage.
Mhm.
That's just a matter of fact. So the people that say that may not fully understand what they're talking about, but at the end of the day, I think Canon is doing something that's really good, because we were dogging them for so long,
Yeah.
and now they've done something, and there's still more work to be done, because I do think they
Yep.
need to have a more wide range of lenses.
Yep.
I do think that they need to have a second version of the RP that may have at least a better, like, the non-cropping. And
Yep.
at first, when it was first released, they didn't have the 24 frames per second, which was crazy. How could you
Yeah.
forget that? So they're gonna get there, and I think they're gonna be a player. And it's funny. Just before we close, I know I want to say this, that they've kind of switched roles. Canon is now dropping a lot of more announcements,
Yep.
and Sony is the one who took a long time to talk about the A7S Mark II, and they're being more careful. So the higher you get up in the food chain,
Yep.
it becomes harder to stay innovative.
But
So this is what we're seeing now. So yeah,
but
go ahead.
also
Go ahead.
too, a lot, what a lot of people forgot is that Sony took a big hit 4 years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, when there was that giant earthquake that affected Japan, because that was where they made their major chip. That was their major chip producers or sensors. And remember, they
I
provide
didn't even know
sensors.
that.
They provide sensors for a ton of different companies, and
Right.
they took a hit there. So I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot to unpack. But I will say, Sony, you got to come, and you got to come quick, and you got to come hard. You got to lick us up in the back of our head and give us cocoa and give us mango-sized lumps in our head so we can put ice on it. Because if you don't come hard and strong, people are gonna bounce.
Oh, I know all the YouTubers.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Prediction. All the YouTubers are going to switch because it's more content. If I switch
Yeah,
my whole
absolutely.
setup, I'm just
Absolutely.
going to sell all my Sony gear and get
Absolutely.
Canon gear, and then I'm going to make 10 videos off of that and make all my
Absolutely.
brand money back.
Yep.
That's just the way it's going to be.
And that's cool. I mean, again, I made a video too about Canon. I don't even own Canon, the cameras or anything, but I understand the game, but I also understand that this is what people want to talk about, right? And it's also exciting to me, right? But anyways, listen, this was dope, and we gotta go.
Oh yeah.
But like always, it's always good seeing you, fam. Talk to you later.
Peace out, yo.